The Valkyries. I'm assuming it's WNBA.
The Golden State Valkyrie. I did not know that was the name of a WNBA team.
I just got a Jordan book sent to me for Christmas that I like. You don't like. It's one of those like little deals that they, your financial guy sends you.
Yeah.
And he sent me, and I was kind of like,
Yeah.
that okay, whatever, dude. I went through that thing, and I was like, this might be the coolest book I
Yeah.
Like, I was so pumped.
Does it sound okay in your headset? Like,
I'm good.
Does it need to be louder or softer?
No,
All right. I like asking the question before we get going.
Let's dive into Valkyrie basketball.
You got
this thing.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. We continue the broadcast from Radio Row in San Francisco. Pleased to be joined by a pair of guys who were a part of the show last year. Todd Heap, Dennis Pitta with the Baltimore Ravens. Guys, good to see you here once again. Let's dive right in. What's it like looking at the Ravens without John Harbaugh? Can we start with that?
It's going to be a little awkward at first, right? I mean, he's been there for so long. It's going to be awkward, especially for Dennis. I don't know if he's going to be able to survive, but no, like I said, he's had so much success, and he's been such a staple, a big part of the organization, that it's definitely going to be a different look going forward. But got Coach Minner.
Yeah,
he's bringing in some studs with him, and so excited to see what he can do coming up next year.
Dennis?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I was a bit surprised by the firing of John Harbaugh. I didn't think the Ravens would make this move.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there was rumblings before this happened, and fans were unhappy, to say the least, with the outcome of the last handful of seasons. In particular, this one, you completely missed the playoffs, right? Yeah. This Ravens team in the Lamar Jackson era has just struggled to get over the hump in the postseason. And I don't think John Harbaugh was the issue necessarily, but I do think now that he's been fired, I do think this will be a really positive thing for the locker room, because it lights a little bit of a fire under guys, and it provides a sense of urgency that even your 18-year Super Bowl winning head coach is dispensable. And if we don't start winning and we don't meet the expectations that our organization has, and they are high expectations, we've both been in that locker room and understand it's win or bust. You want to win not just games, you want to win championships. And when you fall short of that, anybody's on the chopping block. And I think that's the message that number one, Steve Bisciotti wanted to send, intentionally or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think change is good in these situations. I think it can spark some things. And I love the hire of Jesse Minter. I think he's a young, innovative guy. I think the Ravens want to get back to their roots, and that's playing great defensive football.
Mm-hmm.
When I won a Super Bowl, when Todd got drafted right after the first Super Bowl, the identity of the Ravens has always been
slight dig, right?
It's just a little.
Yeah.
What he's saying is it went all downhill. That's what I was hearing there.
It's amazing that Todd was with the Ravens for so long, and the Ravens have won several Super Bowls, and he wasn't a part of it. It's
just tough,
shocking. Needless to say, the identity of the Ravens has always been defense first, right? Tough, hard-nosed defense. Now, a huge part of that culture was John Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, the defense the last couple years hasn't been the same defense that we have become accustomed to. And I think fans were frustrated by that. And also just the fact that, you couldn't play as good a football offensively as you would have hoped with Lamar Jackson. Now, I know injuries played a part of that this year, but
sure.
But regardless, when those expectations aren't met, people lose their job, unfortunately. And so I think Jesse Minter is a great hire in regards to we're going to bring back that toughness on defense especially and bring back that identity.
Well, I can't remember earlier this week, I talked to someone and they brought up, I think the trend in the NFL you're going to see is defensive-minded coaches being head coaches and then them going after really good offensive coordinators. And I thought, you know what? You're probably on to something because look at New England and Seattle going into the Super Bowl this week. I think those are – now, Mike Vrabel, I think, is a different thing, though, because Mike Vrabel obviously knows what they can do about winning. But it's amazing to look at these two teams because, we're so used to the Chiefs, right? It's the Chiefs, and we're bummed about it in the Midwest. Like, oh, my God, the sky's falling, that type of thing. But I really like this Super Bowl because I think it reminds you of in the NFL where truly, like, this can happen. Like, this can happen. It's not all about the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomes. It can be a Sam Darnold. It can be a Drake May. It can be that type of way behind really good defenses and really good head coaches. So,
well, I think everything's cyclical in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the offensive coaches. Sometimes the only thing I'll say is that it's very hard to be a head coach and call the offense.
Yeah.
That's a difficult thing to do and manage all the things you have to as a head coach and a decision maker across the board and call plays. Either vice versa, like for the defensive coach or for the offensive coach. So that being said, you want to hire great people, bring great people in as your coordinators. And that's what I see Jesse Minter doing. He's brought in a couple of great coordinators. I played with Anthony Weaver.
Yeah.
He's a great leader of men, awesome guy. He's had a lot of success over the years. And so that's, like I said, it's a cyclical thing. Right now we have two head coaches that are defensive guys, and so you're saying that might be a trend, but it always goes in cycles, and all the owners are trying to find what that next cycle is going to be and who that next guy is. And so, we'll see how that trends out going forward. But yeah, we've seen a lot of defensive minded head coaches and a lot of offensive minded. Who knows which one's right? You just want to have the good people, great people in place.
Yeah, no doubt. I brought up Chiefs, and there's a reason behind that. They lost a bunch of one-score games this year compared to what we saw the year before. How does Kansas City get back to the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes coming off an ACL injury, with a bunch of older guys on the roster, and a bunch of things that they have to change? They got to figure out some different things. How does Kansas City go about getting back to this point?
Well, I think when you have Patrick Mahomes and you have Andy Reid, you like your chances.
Never too far away.
Yeah, you're not that far away, honestly. And I know things didn't go well for them this year, and they lost a lot of close games, which they've won a lot of those close games in years past. And so for whatever reason, the ball didn't bounce their way this year, and Ravens fans can sympathize with that.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a lot of things go wrong early in the season, injuries in particular. When Lamar Jackson's not 100% healthy, the offense struggles. And so it's the nature of the beast in the NFL. But you get a healthy Patrick Mahomes next year, which we all hope that he'll be back in health and 100% and look the same. And you have the coach. When you have the quarterback and the coach, typically things work out for you.
Sure.
And they have a great front office. They can obviously. Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator. They're going to figure things out. They're going to replace some of these pieces that are aging and all that kind of stuff. I don't have any doubt that they're going to be right back in it next year when all is said and done.
But what about Eric Bieniemy returning as an offensive coordinator? I think a lot of Chiefs fans are very curious as to what's going to happen. Now, the guy was a part of Super Bowls in Kansas City, so it's very easy to forget that when he was on his way out, I think there were a lot of people that were going, oh, great, EB's not going to be a part of this anymore. You bring in Matt Nagy. Obviously, the offense was a little stagnant the last couple of years. But with Eric Bieniemy coming back, Patrick Mahomes has said accountability as a former player, how big of a deal can it be just to have a guy come back and check you and say, Todd, you're not playing well.
Well, that's the hardest thing to do as a NFL coach, is to check the players and make and hold them accountable on a daily basis. All these guys are grown men, and a lot of them have different, some of them are more professional and carry themselves different than others. And so to have a coach that kind of sets the standard and holds them accountable, like that's the most important aspect of that. Make sure every player understands what's expected of them and what they need to do to accomplish that goal. And he's got that rapport with Andy Reid. If you have that relationship where your offensive coordinator and your head coach are on the same page, especially with Andy Reid, that's a great recipe. We've seen that great recipe for many years. So You add those two, and with Patrick Mahomes, it's not going to be hard for them to find their way back to success with just a few tweaks here and there, personnel-wise. Running back, receiver here or there. We'll see what happens with Kelsey at tight end.
And I think a lot of people from the outside looking in will say, well, he doesn't call plays. Like, what impact does he have?
Yeah.
And
Andy Reid's offense.
Andy Reid's calling the plays. But what people don't understand is Eric Bieniemy is going to be the one installing the offense. He's going to be one in the meeting room. He's going to be one detailing all of those little things out that allow you to be successful and execute on game day. Whether he's calling the plays or not, he plays a critical role in the success of that offense. And so you can't undervalue that addition back with this offense and the impact that it's going to have. And so regardless who's calling plays, I think he's going to have a big impact. And obviously he has a track record for success there in Kansas City. And that duo between him and Andy Reid, him being able to kind of do all the day-to-day install and all that kind of stuff, and then Andy Reid calling the plays, it's obviously been a relationship that's been successful. So I think I'd be very bullish on the offense in particular moving forward.
Okay. Travis Kelce, you brought him up. Still don't know if he's coming back, if he's going to hang it up. How long did it take for you guys to decide, you know what, it's good. It's good. I'm done. How long did it take?
Didn't take long.
Took him pretty quickly when he
when I dislocated my hip for the third time, and they told me you can't play anymore.
He didn't have Cadix cleats, and neither did I. Mine was a knee injury that really ended my career as well, and it was, So
you didn't go out on your own terms.
Yeah, which most guys don't, and that's the luxury I think at least Travis Kelce has right now, is he can go out on his own terms, and I know a lot of people thought he was a shell of himself this last year. You look at the statistics and you look at everything, he's still a very productive player. And I know, a lot of high-profile drops he had in some critical situations this year. And listen, those happen. I get that. But he's still a guy that can play at a high level, in my opinion. And you cannot discredit the rapport that he has with the quarterback.
Yeah.
That relationship is so important because they're on the same page. They kind of know what each other's thinking. There's so many plays that are made between just those two that are off script that you can't quantify.
More so than any other quarterback tight end combo that I've witnessed.
Absolutely.
I mean,
better than you guys? Are you kidding?
Well, no, they're just off script. Like they're doing stuff and Mahomes is reading his body language and making plays that is not part of the detail that we were talking about that they go through on a daily basis, that Bieniemy's installing. They're able to do stuff and feel stuff and see stuff on the same page that most tight end quarterbacks haven't had that.
I'm really concerned with Dennis over here. I don't know what's going on. There's someone behind me. He's doing something.
Peanut gallery
that's
over
what
here.
happens on Radio Row. You got people walking by. You got all these other players.
I'm trying to show my VIP placard so that they know I'm very important.
When I saw you guys earlier, like I was talking to Brian Billick, and I was like, "Hey, just come on over and just join the fun here." Just
we're having a nice time. This is fun.
Okay, good.
We're having a good time.
Okay, good, fantastic. Well, you bring up Kelce being a shell of himself. It's important.
We didn't say that.
Okay, well,
we're saying other people are saying
that's
that.
That's a good point. Good clarification. Good clarification. We don't want anyone to go, whoa, hold on. But the pieces around him. I think when you look at wide receiver, I was talking with Matt Harmon of Yahoo Sports, and his biggest thing going into the draft this year, because the Chiefs can go in a lot of directions. Some fans want Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame at running back, number 9. Top 10 pick on running back, though, I don't know.
Yeah.
Edge rushing wise, it's a really good group in the Big 12 country. You watch David Bailey and what he's able to do, and golly, is he really incredible there at Texas Tech. And there's other guys too, obviously. But then everyone's thinking, well, what about wide receiver at number 9? And I thought, you know what? I like where your head's at, but it seems like the Chiefs have tried a certain type of wide receiver that it makes me wonder, do they go about going, all right, 3rd and 12, we need a guy who's going to jump up and get the grab for a gain of 15 to move the chains? Because I feel like Kansas City hasn't had that since a guy by the name of Tyreek Hill. Of course, Travis Kelce did a lot, but he can't be that guy anymore. So how does Kansas City retool on the opposite side of the ball?
So, I mean, if we're talking about the draft, I am a huge proponent of you have to build from the inside out. I think if you have a great tackle or you have a great edge rusher available at 9, that's the direction I'm going to go 100% of the time.
You go value. You go, what do you value as a team, as an offense, as a defense, and what's my greatest value at that position? You got to go with your highest rated guys in that order, and you got to close to stick to that with your needs. And I agree with Dennis. You want to start with the guys up front and then fill in around that.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would say, and again, we are not, we don't major in Kansas City football, right? You've
seen enough, though.
I live in California. We've seen a lot, right? We've seen a lot. But what's one thing that they struggled with, in particular on offense? They couldn't run the football very well. They became very one-dimensional.
Yep.
And that hurt them in a lot of games. So if you have a great tackle or guard or center available that's that highly rated in the top 10, how could you not try to bolster your offensive line, give Patrick Mahomes more protection? I mean, you've got to find a way to keep Patrick Mahomes upright, number one. Yeah. But you also have to find a run game. You just don't want it to be all on his shoulders, especially next year when he's coming off an ACL injury. You want to be able to be, more multifaceted in what you do offensively. If you can't run the football, it becomes very easy to defend you in this league. And I think Kansas City learned that the hard way last year, to be completely honest. And so that would be me if I were GM. Now, obviously, you need to have a pass rush as well. You have an aging
Chris Jones.
George
Karlaftis got paid in the offseason last year. But for Spags, though, I feel like on the defensive side of the ball, so many times where you saw those exotic blitzes were hitting, well, I think it's because of, they actually have a pass rush that was pretty darn good, so you have to focus on that, and that allows those blitzes to hit.
Absolutely.
And since they didn't hit as much, it makes me go, well, they're obviously not going to be concerned with Mike Dana. They're not going to be concerned with a third-round draft pick in Ashton Gelati out of Louisville, who I think still has potential. A couple years ago in Kansas City in the draft, they take Felix Enudike Uzama, who is a K-State boy, a local kid in Kansas City. Look, great. It's a feel-good moment. I'm glad that they were able to do something like that, but he also hasn't produced at this point. It's still early. He can still find his way. I mean, one thing we should learn about the NFL is don't count anyone out, because a guy by the name of Sam Darnold, everyone thought he was left for dead, playing for the Jets, playing for the Panthers. Even a brief moment there in San Francisco there with Coach Shanahan, and now here he is getting ready for a Super Bowl. So, we're done for thinking that people are left for dead in the National Football League, because it can happen. But I do look at the Chiefs and just, wonder with that pass rush, that would be an important thing in order for Steve Spagnuolo to hit on some of those blitzes a little bit more.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Chris Jones did not have his best year yet last year.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of it. He wasn't as impactful as in years past. Mm-hmm. And so who's going to be that real pass rusher that's going to be what Chris Jones has been the last handful of years? And so I just always think, I would never go running back at that spot. I would struggle unless it was a generational wide receiver. I felt like a generational type player at that spot.
What about tight end? Kid out of Oregon. Could be there, number 9.
I mean, the trouble with that, and speaking specifically about
former tight ends,
about Sadiq out of Oregon, who you mentioned, he's undersized he's not your traditional Travis Kelce size tight end. He's only about 6'2" or 6'3". He's not going to be a punishing inline blocker typically, but now he can run and he can create some mismatches. So he is a weapon, and with Andy Reid and his creativity, you'd love to see what he can do. But again, I think it's a moot point if you can't find a way to run the football. And so if you are going to go on the offensive side of the ball, I would always lean offensive line. And that's not the sexy pick. That's not the exciting pick that everybody wants.
Right.
That's just how I would build a team.
And I think it all depends on how you rate the guys. You've got to make sure you're taking the guy that's rated at that position, your 9th best player. If he happens to be there, or whoever your number 1 best player is, after all the other 8 teams pick, who's your best player on the board? And then you weigh your options at that point. But that's what I would do if I, because you look at the Ravens, that's how they've always done it.
Yeah.
You know, we've taken running backs in the top 10.
Other than the fact that the best defensive players magically end up in the arms of Baltimore every single year.
Yeah,
happens every year.
We've gotten Ray Lewis and Ed Reed in the bottom, 25 to 30 picks.
Kyle Hamilton at pick 14.
Yeah,
I mean,
but we've also picked Jamal Lewis in the top 10 picks. So it's like you got to pick for value. You got to pick for who you have rated at that position, and then you look at positions secondarily.
Well, let's get you out here. But before we do, a couple of things. Who wins this weekend? Who you got?
I got the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's going to be a little higher scoring game than most people are thinking. So I've got the Seahawks 28-24.
Okay. Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I'm rooting for the Seahawks. Mike McDonald was a coach on staff when I was there in Baltimore.
Part of the Ravens family.
Yeah, he was the guy, holding up scout cards for the scout team. He was, which is amazing to think about. And, this was long before he became, the defensive coordinator there and had number one defenses, ranked defenses, and then obviously went on to Seattle. But everybody has a start somewhere, and we saw his start. He was holding scout cards and doing all the grunt work, which it's amazing to see what he's accomplished. But Sam Darnold is also just a story that I want to root for. A guy that's been, journeyman to this point, and amazing to see how beaten down he got early in his career and now be able to stay confident in himself and find the right situation and be successful. So I'm certainly rooting for Seattle. I think they're going to win, too, to be completely honest, because the way that they've been playing, the level that their defense has been playing at, if Sam, takes care of the football and plays well in this game, I think they're going to win going away.
Well, there's that pass rush again, though, too. I mean, they have balance. That's what they have on the defensive side of the ball. We have this lovely cleat on display. Tell me a little bit about it. What's going on?
Cadix cleats. It's a new patented technology. It's called Smart Studs. And the impetus for this was, the founder and CEO, the guy who created this, named Jack Rasmussen, was watching a Chiefs game. And he saw Jamal Charles.
Ironically enough.
Saw Jamal Charles take,
the world revolves around the Chiefs.
Tear his ACL with a non-contact injury. And in his head, he said, how that shouldn't be the case. How can we fix that? How can we do something to alleviate that and have less non-contact injuries? So he came up with this Smart Studs technology, patented technology that allows for all of these studs to flex and rotate and move in all directions, thus taking that, reducing that rotational force that causes non-contact injuries.
Yeah.
So Dennis and I have been part of this for about a year and a half now. We saw it and we both said, man, that's going to change cleated sports. And not only is it for men's football, but for women as well, who are more predisposed to.
Yeah, flag's growing too. Flag is such a big
huge for women's soccer, lacrosse, and flag football, and they're more predisposed to the ACL injuries specifically. And so what this does, it just takes that force off, and all that rotational force that comes up from the kinetic chain from the ground through your ankles, through your knees, and it just it reduces that a little bit to where you're not caught in those compromising positions that you otherwise would be. And you're never going to eliminate all injuries.
Sure.
But if you can just help it just a little bit and reduce that force by a little bit, we think that's going to change cleated sports. And we've been excited to be a part of this. It's been a fun ride. We had 40 to 50 guys wearing them this year.
That's
in
great.
the NFL.
Terrific.
And all guys non-paid. We just, a lot of them reached out to us and asked us.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, we just, sent them cleats and they tried them and loved them. So
love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of the week. All right.
Thank you.
Cadix.com.